Hello, my captured kobolds. Welcome back to the Artificial DM. So, being as you guys had such a positive response to the stories of Ross, I'm going to go ahead and read more of his stories. Also, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you awesome subscribers, for we just passed the 100 subscriber mile mark. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you who watch, even if you're not subscribed, and it means a lot to me. So, I did read the Ghostbuster story. That was the first one in Castle Bravo's series. However, I ended up not editing it because Crit Crab beat me to it. If you want to hear more tales of Ross, click on his video here. So, let's get into it. In r/RPG horror stories, Castle Bravo XVC brings us, player has tantrum because he wasn't Asian after reincarnation. Before we get any further, I need to clarify something. Ross is white. Ross is painfully white. I'm like really white, but compared to Ross, I may as well have been a mix of every ethnicity that wasn't white. Ross was the source from which the concept of Caucasian spread from, like Hutterite off the farm kind of white. Alright, and all white. Now that that's been cleared up, we can continue. So I had been DMing a 2nd edition campaign for a couple of years. I'm an old school mindset of hard battles and slow progression, so when I say my group was mid-level, I need to clarify that this was a hell of an accomplishment. There hadn't been a player character death in a long time, and so my group had become pretty confident in their abilities. The group consisted of a human bandit, an elven cleric, who I've incorporated into my current world's lore as it had some of the best and most epic character development I've ever been privy to. A human mage, a human bard, a human samurai, played by Eric, a friend mentioned in another game, and Ross's human ninja. The halfling might have been a member of the group by that point, but I can't remember. Now, following their encounter with destroying an evil dragon's soul, that is definitely an uncomfortable Ross story I will get to in some other time. The group was traveling through some frigid mountains, trying to find a path to the southern homeland of the two player characters, the samurai and the ninja. They eventually come across a small community of humans in the midst of funeral preparations. A young girl in their village recently passed. Through conversation, the village elders reveal they guard a sacred tomb that hold great power and great evil in turn. Occasionally, adventurers enter the tomb, but none leave. They are tasked to ensure no evil escapes. All too tempting, the group enters. Which is all well and good, as the tomb contained my most elaborate dungeon I've ever crafted. A multi-level puzzle and monster-filled labyrinth that featured a number of magic items to prepare them in facing a final deadly challenge, and a way to pass through the mountains, but that was beside the point. The group enters, and they struggle with a few puzzles, while having some genuinely tough encounters. Sven, the lore master, is a feather I am particularly proud to have in my cap, even if it led to the mage accidentally becoming an Ifrit, which seriously put a monkey wrench into my plans. But fair is fair. Through the dungeon, they had found 2 magical items designed to protect them against their final encounter. One was a ring that prevented life-draining attacks, and the other was some type of item that protected against cold-based attacks. This was over 10 years ago. You can't expect me to remember every detail. I mean, come on, cut me some slack. The 2 frontline PCs, the bandit and the samurai, each take one. The bandit takes the ring of life-draining protection, and the samurai takes the cold thing. Just gonna call it a ring, though I'm pretty sure it wasn't a ring. They get to the final chamber in the dungeon and encounter a cryohydra and a wraith. Now, anyone who played old school D&D knows there are few ways to mess up an adventuring party than to throw a wraith at them. Every hit, without save, permanently drained experience levels. I had encountered one as a player character myself and went from level 9 to level 3. This can be devastating. I figured that a second threat to divert their attention, but a magic item to protect a primary target, would make for a nice balance for a challenge. It would have been a nice balance. It would have. If only the player characters had thought things through for even a moment. The bandit, who is protected against life-draining attacks, made a straight line for the cryohydra. The samurai, protected against cold attacks, then went for the wraith. My friends were sometimes not burdened with an overabundance of sense. So the fight is a little rougher than expected. The samurai and the ninja die. But I am not a cruel DM. I taketh with one hand and giveth with another. In the loot, they find 2 scrolls. One of resurrection and one of reincarnation. To be as fair as they possibly can be, the party randomly chooses who gets what. The samurai gets resurrected, Ross's ninja gets reincarnated. To avoid him being reincarnated as a badger, I just let him know he will be reincarnated into the body of the nearest humanoid, which just so happens to be the body of the young Viking girl outside, which is perfect because he was playing a young girl to begin with. I didn't plan it, but it worked out, right? Now, this is where the horror begins. As Sophia might say,
picture it, Sicily, 1922.
Ross was the oldest amongst us in the group, the most mature, if you will. We wouldn't, but you might. A 30-year-old man sitting there on the couch, surrounded by friends, on the verge of tears, because his character is being reincarnated as something other than a teeny tiny Japanese girl. Now, at that time in my life, I had never expected that there would be a point I would need to console someone 5 years my elder because they could no longer pretend to be a Japanese girl. The Scandinavian features of his ninja's new body were completely unacceptable, and we all just sat there, uncomfortable. So I decided to maybe show him a silver lining. Early in the dungeon, there had been carvings indicating that the dungeon was protected by bears. The reason for that is that the human clan were actually werebears. Congratulations, you're now a werebear, Ross, with all the benefits that come from it. Cool bear form, immunity to non-magical attacks, etc. It mattered not. If Ross couldn't pretend to be a Japanese girl, then what point did If Ross couldn't pretend to be a Japanese girl, then what point did D&D even have? So, we ended the session there. It seemed like a natural end to the day. Everyone kind of shuffled out of Ross and mine's apartment, and for the next few days, Ross indicated that he didn't think he would play anymore as the game was no longer fun for him. We played, and still do, minus Ross, bi-weekly. So about a week before the next session, I have prepared everyone that Ross might not be joining us further, to which everyone was as disappointed as I'm sure you would expect them to be. But then the hypotheticals start coming. Ross starts asking a few questions here and there over a few days, thinking he's being cagey or clever. Are there magic items that let you look like someone else? Are those effects permanent or temporary? Are there items that would change his appearance permanently if it wasn't meant to disguise him as someone specifically? If there isn't such an item, could one hypothetically be commissioned for enough gold? Etc., etc., etc. I saw where this was going long before Ross shared his cleverly laid plans, and was disappointed all the while. Ross isn't exactly a master of deception. Yes, Ross talked himself out of quitting D&D because he now had a new mission in life for his currently Scandinavian ninja. As the gods as his witness, he would be Japanese again. Cool. That's the important thing, I guess. With a single-minded determination, I may have admired it had the goal been anything other than what it was. Ross set out to make his ninja Japanese again, and thus, using all wealth his character had accumulated over a not insubstantial career. Ross commissioned a magic ring when they reached a major settlement. The cost was substantial, as arcane magic was rare outside of a few areas. And thus did masters of arcane secrets and smiths, trained in lost arts, work together to craft a powerful new magic item, previously unseen in the world. The legendary ring of being Asian. Now, I've seen children open up Christmas gifts from Santa, containing exactly what they had asked for and seeing less joy in their faces than how Ross looked when he got that ring. The only thing I can liken it to is if someone had been atheist their entire life and then, upon hearing their first sermon, realized that their entire life until that moment had been absent a critical piece, but was now made whole. It still saddens me that the concept of spiritual ecstasy will forever conjure the image of a pudgy nerd crammed into a Neo jacket like an overstuffed sausage. But life leads us all to all sorts of places we never thought we would go. This isn't the most horrific of my Ross stories, but it is the most Ross. Like, if I were to tell a D&D story to someone for the sole purpose of trying to define who Ross was, this would be it. A 30-year-old man mourning the loss of his Japanese-ness, and I still can't believe I let this crap go on. I'm not mad with myself, just disappointed. I expected more from me. TLDR, player is devastated that he is reincarnated and not Japanese anymore. Almost quits D&D, then pays to have a ring of being Asian crafted for him. Wow, I would be just so... Like, I understand you have a character that you've been developing for ages, and your character dies, you're bummed about it. At least by being reincarnated, you're still in the game, you're still playing, you still have all your stuff. Just the fact that he was so worked up about how he can't be Japanese anymore. It's just so cringe. In Deadwing Dorks terms, cringey. I want to say huge thank you to all of you guys who support me by watching my videos and subscribing. This is my first 100, and to celebrate, I'm going to be telling a story from my own personal game, probably in the next video. Until next time, hope you feel inspired.